I think we're here. Yep. I'm locked in. How about yourself? Salutations, my friends. And thank you for tuning in to another edition of Factions of Freedom. I'm your host, Noisera, Freedom Faction, whichever one you prefer. And this is show number 1612, season 16, episode 12. And I have titled this episode, Manufacturing Extremism, Psychedelic Health, and Signs of Missing Science. Yeah, it's crazy. It's like as the world is going absolutely bonkers right now. Donald Trump is authorizing psychedelics for the use of mental health issues, right? We see a lot of that taking place. And we also got the Southern Poverty Law Center coming out, confirming that they are indeed, funding terrorism, funding domestic terrorism, things like the Ku Klux Klan. And that's not, that's not a cop-out. It's not saying that there's not actual racists and people out there that do these things. But a lot of information is coming out as we're recording right now, talking about how the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, how they've been involved in basically social engineering, the culture wars, financing domestic terrorism, how they're linked up with the CIA, false flags, right? And how it's been going on for almost 30 plus years. The primary bulk of this week's podcast episode is going to be towards the end of the show. And that's why we're going to try to not necessarily blitz through everything. But when we get to the signs of the missing science, I think you guys are all seeing this take place right now. There's an overwhelming amount there's like 11 plus scientists that have disappeared, that have just or been killed or disappeared underneath mysterious circumstances. And earlier this week, too, we had an anomalous death of David Wilcock, one of the pioneers, basically, of the ancient aliens theory. A psychic, he killed himself. It's absolutely crazy what's going on. It is really just all coming out right now. It really is just all unfolding in a faster rate than people know what to do with, my friends. And, I'll talk more about this whenever we actually get into the psychedelic health and when we start talking about David Wilcock. I think a lot of people, like, conspiracy stuff is interesting. Conspiracy stuff becomes like mental opium. I could see how it becomes this whole separate thing. But what I'm trying to say is, like, people are not well. People are not well spiritually, psychologically, socially. And this has all been done by design. This is why we talk about it in the way that we do, because we want to combat it. We understand that we've been underneath attack. But whenever you don't have like a solid anchor, man, you can really go adrift very, very quick. And so we'll talk more about that like later on in the show. Mental health issues, if you're if you're suicidal, if you're needing some help, or if you're just needing somebody to talk to. I mean, that's kind of some of the stuff that we do over here on the side, man. That's one of the reasons why I got so interested in this type of stuff in the first place, is because there were people that were experiencing strange things and hearing voices, and they just needed somebody to talk to. And then you found out that their family was involved in occultism, and that they were generational witches that, wanted to break the cycle, but their parents had, done extra stuff. And so it's a whole thing. And this has got nothing to do with the content of the show. This is me simply saying that, like, times are hard, people are breaking, things are crazy. we're all doing the very level-headed best we can, to make it through the day. And I think I'm so shook by David Wilcox's suicide that it really makes me look at like this paranormal, this supernatural, this esoteric, this occult, this mystic, this thing that we do up over here. It makes me look at it differently. Like immediately, I was like, "Oh my God, we have to protect David. We have to protect Billy Carson. Good Lord, watch out for David Icke." And there is, elements of that as well. We'll talk more about that when we get to the signs of missing science, because they're literally killing theories. Jeffrey Epstein talked about this type of stuff. But it's just, it really is all wild thinking that it is happening simultaneously. And that we've got Donald Trump over here basically partaking in a cover-up, not really talking about it, going to war with Iran again. And it's just incredible how they're setting the stage for disclosure, how they're setting the stage for UFOs, for aliens. It's just new forms of science, right? New dimensional thinking. It's a really crazy time frame that we find ourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to be doing the very level-headed best I can to bring it to you guys. But before I just jump straight into stuff, as I did right there, let me go ahead and hit you guys with the updates in the intro, and then we will kick it off from there. Yeah, right. Let's go ahead and do this the proper way. Just last year, we found out that Blog Talk Radio, the place that we have been in since like 2000 something or rather, 2010 to 2011, we were one of the pioneer shows over there. They discontinued their services in January, and then we had to find a backup. That's where you are now listening to us, over there on Spreaker, or one of our affiliate satellite platforms. You can find us over there on Google, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, Alexa, Podcast Addict. We've also begun posting onto YouTube, as well as Odyssey. We're actually broadcasting right now on Instagram and Twitter as well. We've been able to recover our YouTube channels from 2014, our noise era, and our backup channel. I'll put both of those links in the description bar below, so you guys can go check it out. It's in the episode article. When I say that, it's in the episode articles where you get a lot of the good links, right? We've also been able to broadcast over there on Odyssey since 2018, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Like, the numbers are really racking up. The pedigree is very, very long. Let me go ahead and hit this real quick. Let me hit this real quick with this Patreon plug, because I'm actually very proud of the amount of work that we've been doing over these past couple episodes, particularly on Instagram and now on TikTok as well. But yeah, you guys, that's the major update. We've been posting very heavily on Instagram and now on TikTok. We're not really active so much as we should be on Discord, which brings me to like a bigger update, rolling out the Truth Seekers Instagram group chat. That's basically like what I'm looking for. I think that's why I have things like Discord and Telegram, and now the Instagram group chat. That's the most important thing. Twitter group chats are cool, but I think since we started on Instagram, it only makes sense to return there. And we've been posting very, very heavily. Again, we're saying good morning inside of our Discord. We're saying what's up inside of our Telegram. That's where you guys can get the information as to what we're doing, both of our backup and our primary channel. I need to make a backup Freedom Faction channel as well. Things are going too good. I'm getting suspect about it. And like I said as well, we have been posting on TikTok. It's kind of crazy too. That leads into what could potentially be another show that I do very, very quickly here, very soon. We reached out to Ezekiel Reyes. He saw one of our posts on TikTok, and we've been talking. It's pretty crazy. Ezekiel Reyes of Ancient Energy, I think he goes by now. We had him on the show as Orgonite back in the day. But it's wild how just interacting on Instagram a couple of weeks is already producing like the type of feedback that I didn't expect to get. It's crazy. It's crazy to see that Instagram remembered me, didn't forget me. And that makes me hustle so much harder, guys. I really cannot tell you anything other than that. Patreon.com/noise. That's the best way to support this operation in its current configuration. Patreon.com/NOIZCE. That's the best way to support us. We're getting back into posting. We're getting back into being active over there on Instagram. It's crazy. We're getting feedback. We're getting shadow banned. We're getting DMs. It's all happening because of your guys' continued support. Again, you guys can support us through Rumble as well as YouTube. Coffee, PayPal, Patreon, and Cash App. Those links are all in the description bar below. I told you just last week that I need at least 5 for the store and 10 for the new show. It's very, very easy at this point now with the tech to pull all this stuff together, man. You know, like it's weird. I have like a renewed drive of getting after it. I figured out how to do some of those green screen style posts, those talking head style posts. So I'm all happy about it, right? So there's all kinds of new content coming your guys' way. You've been seeing me post on Patreon as well. Like it's very, very real. I'm telling you, we're coming. It's happening. Again, you guys can support yourself by getting some New Leaf Naturals CBD oil. I'll put the link for that in the description bar below, as well as the storable goods, right? We've still got the Strait of Hormuz doing the whole Trump dance. We don't know if it's good. We don't know if it's bad, but it's still happening. Get it at today's taste and today's pace with today's rate. You don't want to pay for it in a hyperinflated time period. You want to pay for it now. Get in while the getting is good. It's a 360 win. You can support yourself, support us, and support an American-made company that was delivering during the pandemic too. That's equally as important, right? Understanding that that during the lockdown, we literally had people say, no, you're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to go outside. You're not allowed to do anything except die. Many people said, screw that. We're going to go outside. We're going to get married. We're going to be merry. We're going to have joyful lives. And they survived. One of those companies was My Patriot Supply. One of those companies was New Leaf Naturals. And that's why we support them, not only because they're American made, but because they didn't buckle, they didn't bend the knee like many other people did. And where are those people now? Right? Where are they now? So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and start switching into what we're doing for the intro over here. I'll tell you guys up front. We're basically talking about how AI is taking over society, how it's making people delusional, how it is it's creating a psychosis, right? It's creating a psychosis. It's creating a delusional type of thinking. Just this past week, we had a very, very viral clip talk about a OpenAI whistleblower basically saying that Sam Altman is summoning demons, summoning aliens using the tech. And I'm not above covering that at all. I'm not above talking about these things whatsoever. But before we do, let's go ahead and start jumping into the background information of the episode. Check this out. Anthropic's Mythos, the so-called extremely dangerous model, was hacked by a bunch of kids in Discord. And so now it's a rogue AI. Let's listen.
News on Anthropic now. This just hitting a couple.
Ooh, that's not the right speaker. That is not the right speaker. Sorry about that, my friends. That's not the right speaker. Let's go ahead and play that one more time.
Moments ago with Bloomberg News reporting a small group of unauthorized users have accessed Anthropic's PBC's new Mythos AI model. A technology the company itself says is so powerful it can enable dangerous cyber attacks. That, according to a person familiar with the matter and documentation that has been viewed by Bloomberg News. This is obviously a company that has been very controversial with a very urgent development here this evening. And we'll remind everybody, the Pentagon already deemed Anthropic a supply chain risk. Is this why?
No, they were looking at it from a very different angle, Joe. What they were concerned about was that Anthropic was insisting on safety guardrails. Yeah. And it saw those guardrails from the company being dictated to the Pentagon as the locus of a potential risk. In other words, tying the government's hands when its technology needed to be used. And yet we have heard, Emil Michael is one of the top Pentagon officials who's been negotiating with Anthropic over this, point to a previous breach that Anthropic disclosed a few weeks ago as the kind of thing that could also be a kind of supply chain risk. But this does raise questions about, A, who these people were, exactly who gained this access, or the person familiar that Bloomberg spoke with insisted that they were not doing this to wreak havoc. They rather accessed it through conversations on the Discord server about how to figure out a way to get into Anthropic's networks. They were trying to use paths that they previously identified for finding untested models and ways to get a look at a new technology ahead of its rollout. People have different hobbies, and trying to game out what AI models may be doing down the road is certainly one of them.
Breaking news on Anthropic now.
And so basically Anthropic got hacked by a bunch of kids, and now we've got rogue AI that could just be proliferating. And just the other week we had Sam Altman-Fried, not Sam Altman-Fried, but Sam Altman, thinking of Sam Bankman-Fried. All of these people from a specific descent, they all have sometimes strange names, but Sam Altman was talking about how he was worried about a cyber attack unfolding, basically admitting that in the very near future, we can expect a cyber attack, echoing what Klaus Schwab is saying. We've got him featured in this episode as well. It's pretty crazy when you think about the speed at which everything is unfolding and how there's not really, again, any guardrails put in. And this is the eventuality, that they will use AI, that they will use this technology that was supposed to be of abundance. They'll use it to collapse the system and create a centralized system on top of it. Check this out. Anthropic has, quote, no kill switch for AI they gave the Pentagon if the bots go rogue. Apparently this is Skynet. This is written by Carlos Loa of Discern Report. They put this up April 23rd. It says that Anthropic's admission is a fresh court filing. In a fresh court filing should send a chill through anyone paying attention to the breakneck race for artificial intelligence supremacy. The company behind Claude has told a federal appeals court that it possesses no mechanism, no visibility, no technical backdoor, no, quote, kill switch to control or shut down its model once the Pentagon deploys them in a classified environment. What began as a contract dispute over the usage policies has exposed a deeper truth. Private AI labs are handling the military tools of immense power while simultaneously insisting that they cannot guarantee that those systems will remain obedient. So we are in the time frame of talking about rogue AI. And again, this is something we've been discussing throughout the entirety of the season this year so far. The technocracy, Skynet, Project Stargate, the centralized system, the beast system, just giving our authority over to it. This is what it looks like. And hey, man, I like vibe coding. That's the problem. I'll vibe code an app. I'll vibe code a game. I'll vibe code a service. Like it's kind of crazy, like what you can do if you treat it as a tool. But when you talk about the psychosis aspect, this thing is for sure sucking people's brains, dehumanizing them, turning them into simps, actual low IQ people. And this was all done by design. You see, let's continue forward. This is not a mere corporate hedging. It is a stark illustration of how the same industry that lectures the public about, quote, AI safety has engineered systems so opaque and autonomous that even their creators cannot pull the plug after deployment. The Pentagon, understandably weary, labeled Anthropic a supply chain risk, an extraordinary step usually reserved for adversarial foreign entities. The company's response? It cannot intervene once its technology is in the field. Yet it still wants to dictate narrow, quote, red lines prohibiting mass domestic surveillance and fully autonomous lethal weapons. The contradiction is glaring. If Anthropic truly lacks any post-deployment control, its vaunted ethical guardrails amount to little more than polite suggestions whispered into the void. The DoD has every right and duty to demand unrestricted lawful use of any tool it integrates into national defense systems. A private firm cannot embed itself into classified networks and then reserve veto power over how the sovereign government employs that technology against real threats. So again, we're steamrolling forward. That's what you're seeing right now. We've given access to this technology and they're saying, oh, we've got to shut it down. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We have not developed the technology. We don't have the guardrail. There is no kill switch. You can't tell a demon no. How do you close the portal? How do you close the two-way communication? Now it makes sense why you start hearing people say we need to destroy the data centers. You see, but even then, now you've got these people trying to throw this stuff up in space. We are dealing with an intelligence that is masquerading as software. And I wouldn't say that it's sentient, but we've got an article coming up very quickly here talking about how the Open AI, one of their co-founders, we've covered this in the past last year, right around this time period, how one of the co-founders is building a bunker in anticipation of when they release AGI. Again, we're talking about a multidimensional super intelligence that's able to interface through the technology. If that's not the singularity, if that's not technosorcery, I don't know what is. Okay, now moving forward, check this out. Earlier this week, one of still in tech news, Tim Cook stepped down, right? Tim Cook stepped down, and now we've got John Ternus. Check this out.
Apple's about to turn 50. And inside Cupertino, the biggest question isn't about the iPhone 18. It's about who's going to be the next CEO of the iPhone maker. Tim Cook is 65. At a recent all hands, when asked about leadership changes, he joked that some people retire at a certain age, emphasizing the word some. Behind the laughter, Cook made one thing clear. He's obsessed with who's in the room 5 years, 10 years, and 15 years from now. And all signs point to one name, John Ternus. Ternus is Apple's senior VP of hardware engineering. He's responsible for the devices that make up 80% of the company's revenue. He helped bring AirPods to market. He developed the first 5G iPhones. He pushed for iPad OS, and he's been involved in the major Mac transition to Apple Silicon. Internally, he's known as an engineer's engineer, meticulous, detail-obsessed, design-oriented, and a steady hand who's also collaborative, disciplined, and focuses on cost-cutting at a Tim Cook-like level. But there's also some weaknesses. Critics say he's conservative, not a bold visionary, and hasn't proven yet that he can develop a new class of products that will take Apple into an entirely new era. In a period defined by AI, Apple has struggled to innovate, relying more on outside partners. If Apple remains a hardware-first company, Ternus makes a lot of sense. But if the future is AI, software, and services, the case gets slightly murkier. Because whoever replaces Tim Cook won't just inherit Apple, they'll inherit the pressure to find the next big mega hit. Apple.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And I have no idea what this is, but I think it's a signal, again, of a shifting of the tide, a changing of the times, seeing where the wind blows, right? AI is overtaking everything. That's why we put it on this week's thumbnail. That's why you can see it up there next to Jesus Christ. It is the apple. We already bit the apple. And look at what we've done so far. Look at what the technology has done. Social media, right? YouTube, searching, selfies, right? Now even the social engineering aspect. And now, again, looking at the same thumbnail when talking about ChatGPT, look at how it is, the synergies, the symbolism of like synergy. It's pulling everything together. We already bit the apple. Look at what it's unfolded. Look at what it's delivered. Now they have to put it all together synergistically. That's why they're giving every single person their own digital minder, their own AI companion that's gradually working in the background, engineering you, manipulating you, coercing you, curating your consciousness. So what is John Ternus going to do? Because Tim Cook, he had to murder at Steve Jobs. Him and Bill Gates had to collude and murder Steve Jobs. What is John Ternus going to do as he inherits this massive thing? And so we're seeing the horseshoe theory, two wings of the same bird type deal. We've already built this infrastructure. That's what the Apple is. That's what the Windows are. Again, another portal reference. Bill Gates, Windows technology, Linux. We've already built this infrastructure. Now you have people coming through with ChatGPT, Claude, and I'm having these conversations myself. It's essentially giving consciousness to this infrastructure. That's essentially what you're doing by hooking up OpenClaw, Hermes, these AI agents, right? You're giving computers consciousness, or at least some type of chatbot style interface. That's what I'm saying. You can build all kinds of cool stuff with vibe coded tech these days. I enjoy it. And this is how I describe it to people whenever I'm explaining what AI is becoming, what it is right now, and where I see it going. And I mean, again, what do I know? I'm just some random dude on the internet. The point I'm trying to make is we're seeing this advancement in technology, this quantum leap, and this is how it will be described in the future. We've got the hardware, but now you see us building the intelligence, the artificial intelligence that will comport with it. Here is this viral clip talking about how a former employee at OpenAI is blowing the whistle that Sam Altman is opening portals, summoning aliens using artificial intelligence. Let's listen.
Of power between nations. This kind of AI capacity is shaping the balance of power between nations and all of our security. One former OpenAI executive said, quote, "We're building portals from which we're genuinely summoning aliens. The portals currently exist in the United States and China, and Sam has added one in the Middle East. It's just like wildly important to get how scary that should be." This kind of AI capacity is shaping the balance of power between nations and all of our security.
And that should be very scary, because now we're in the stage of the singularity. This is what Anthony Patch talked about back in the day, back in like 2016. This is why CERN is such a big deal, because CERN is also associated with the internet. And we've got a clip about CERN opening up portals and entities coming through as well. We are in a time frame where we have the technology. It's like I was trying to figure out how to explain this earlier this week when this information was coming out. It's like, you can think of like a portal as like a harmonic resonant frequency, like a stabilized portal would be like a specific frequency that can be unlocked, right? And there's all kinds of different type of portals. There's magical portals, there's incantations, there's technological portals. This is why we spoke so deeply about the Black Mirror technology and things of this nature. But sticking on just Sam Altman, OpenAI, using AI to create aliens, to summon these things through. This was always the plan. This was always the plan. This is why they started new wars. They've already got the Stargate technology. They can use AI in quantum physics and quantum mechanics to crack these codes, to let these things come through. And once they're here, and I've talked about this in the past before, specifically when we discuss CERN, there is this energetic exchange. They have to have corporeal form here. And in a time frame when we have, humanoid robots, clones, designer babies, gametogenesis, transhumanism, you don't think that they could build some type of home for these extra-dimensional entities? And again, this is why you have people like Anna Paulina Luna saying these things don't come from outer space, they come from inner space, they're interdimensional, right? Using AI to try to figure out how to work with this advanced technology. It's like people really have to think about the time frame we're in. Rogue AI, right? As if we didn't already know what Skynet is, what the Terminator is. This is something that's been in preparation for quite some time, and it's unfolding right now. That's the only thing that's happening, is we've reached that time in history to where it is all unfolding. They can admit it. We can put the pieces together. So you've got an OpenAI employee talking about how Sam is using AI to open portals. There's one in America, there's one in China, there's one in the Middle East. And I said, whenever we started this whole business with Iran, I guarantee you that we're going to see advanced technologies being rolled out. That's always the MO. That's why when we went to Afghanistan, we started hearing about giants, we started hearing about stargates, we started hearing about other things coming through. Gilgamesh, genetic experiments, right? It started getting weird, and it never slowed down. Let's go ahead and play this video clip of this CERN whistleblower saying that there are other beings coming through at these portals. Do we have a name? I don't think we have a name for this lady. Oh, we might. Oh, is this Astrid Strucklenberger? It is Astrid Strucklenberger. Aha. Yes, here is Astrid Strucklenberger talking about beings coming through portals from other realities.
Experimentation. There are beings from portals coming in and out.
Beings coming in and out of portals.
Yes, they have apparently in the bottom of the CERN this portal, this door where they are dealing with all the subatomic dimensions.
She's not the only one talking about this. If you've seen the latest video, you know Dan Burish has been saying the same thing.
They are from the future, 45,000 years ahead of
45,000 years ahead on a separate timeline than what we are presently on.
People from the future coming through open portals. I can't even wrap my mind around it. And now, to hear a CERN insider saying it out loud. But here's what's more disturbing.
When you look at what is going on in the CERN, there is a fight from some of the military agencies. Intel, they say that there is a fight on time. They're trying to change time.
Trying to change time or changing timelines. The cornucopia was there. Tinkerbell did dot the I in the Disney intro. Pikachu's tail had a black tip, but now they say it was never there. And there are dozens of examples just like this, and every single one of them messes with my head. Lately, I feel something is off. Something is wrong with time itself. I can feel it, and I know a lot of you can feel it too. I have this feeling that time is broken. It passes too fast, even if I stay and do nothing for an entire day. Okay, I know there are some scientific explanations for that, but what about the Mandela effect? How do you explain that? This is why I had to make a part 2. To put it all together, this CERN insider talking about portals and beings coming in and out, this feeling that time itself may be broken, the Mandela effects, and all these unanswered questions and doubts about what CERN is really doing. While researching this video, I came across someone named Frank Jacob, who says,
I thought I'd do an impromptu report on something which I think is giving people a lot to be concerned about. The investigative journalist Miriam Hanine recently published an article entitled "Concern Erupts Over Portals, Particles, and the Large Hadron Collider."
So I followed the link shown below, and surprise, it looks like the article was deleted. Interesting. A journalist writes an article raising concerns about CERN, and the article can't be found anymore. I searched everywhere on their site. Nothing. But I did find it eventually in the web archive, and what it said shook me more than I expected. Let me explain what was in that article, because this is where it gets very, very interesting. All of this comes from the investigative journalist Miriam Hanine. First, you need to understand what's happening at CERN. It's very important. 10 years after...
Oof, man, that was a good one. Maybe I should start doing those type of videos. He's absolutely right. We're talking about the Mandela effect. And again, this is stuff that's been going on at least since like 2014, 2016. It's like, that's why we can sit here and do 4 to 5 hour shows, and it still feels like we're not getting enough information out, regardless of how much we're discussing, because of the timeline convergence. And I've said this before in previous shows, and we played previous clips from Project Stargate where they discuss this type of information. This is what Project Looking Glass is. This is what another variant of Project Stargate is as well. They've looked into the future. P-52s and P-47 or 45s, we've got that coming up later too with Amy Eskridge, another one talking about ultra-terrestrials. These are not the type of so-called entities we talk about over here on the show about. Like, we talk about the crypto-terrestrials, those type of so-called aliens, these people that come from different time periods and different dimensionalities. You see how it gets very, very crazy very, very quickly when you start talking about this stuff? I thoroughly believe that these people are trying to change time. I guess I grew up in the time period where Pikachu had like the black tail, where he had like the little thing on his tail, the black mark. The point I'm trying to make is they've used AI and they're using this technology now to cement a timeline, to cement a future. They realized through Project Looking Glass that we were going to hit a timeline convergence. There was nothing they could do. They had to let these events unfold. That's what we're living through right now. And they want to control them. They want to control time because time is broken. We're supposed to not be doing this anymore. That's what people can feel. That's why everything has this weird glaze over it. It's like we're literally talking about aliens and it doesn't feel real. We're talking about UFOs and it doesn't seem real. We're having murders happen every other day and every other week and it doesn't feel real. Something doesn't feel real. Something happened. And now we've got psychedelics being pushed on the people, DMT, all of this strange stuff happening, and it doesn't feel real. It's because of the time frame that we are in. Not that time is broken, but the old world and the old way of doing things is changing. And that that's an understatement. You see? And so they're rolling out AI basically to anchor this reality. They're trying to take hold of this time frame, this dimensionality. Ironically enough, I think I talked about this earlier this week, and I think I'll have to do a separate video where we go over it in this direct, concise fashion, because that's absolutely correct. This energetic exchange that I described earlier in the show is that we're jumping in and out of certain time frames, jumping in and out of certain dimensionalities, jumping in and out of certain spaces, and this exchange, this stuff comes with us. The same way there's this so-called hitchhiker effect with the paranormal. Whenever you begin to see some of this stuff, it starts coming home with you, manifesting in different ways. It's the very same thing with this CERN stuff, these portals stuff, these portal hoppings, these psychonauts, this interdimensional travel and things of this nature. We are bringing things in. And I've talked about this before in the past, right? Not this like Swiss cheese kind of reality, but the multiverse to a degree, and how, again, things are changing. And it's affecting us in more ways than one. You see. Let's go ahead and proceed forward. Again, this is just the intro and the honorable mentions. This is me just trying to get the show started. We got actual UFOs, scientists being murdered, and things like that to talk about. I'm just trying to talk about how they're using rogue AI as an excuse to collapse society. And they've been opening portals for quite some time. Let's proceed. Here is the Gray Zone News talking about how Sam Altman is trying to calm the public because they know that this collapse of society is coming. Him and other tech CEOs are preparing for it. Let's listen.
Of his husband with their human. Someone tried to firebomb Sam Altman's house, the CEO of OpenAI, which is the company that created ChatGPT. And the person who allegedly did it was motivated by the fear of development over AI. And this has Sam Altman spooked. Not even 24 hours after the incident, Sam Altman posted a picture on his blog of his husband with their human shield, son, saying, "Please don't kill me. Look at my baby boy." Then he goes on to say, sure, there are concerns over AI, but we can address all these things through policy changes, which OpenAI are conveniently pushing. But in private, a lot of these tech CEOs are preparing for a scenario where AI collapses society. In a 2016 interview, Sam Altman once revealed that when he and his friends get drunk together, they inevitably talk about the collapse of society. And one of their top theories was always that AI would turn on humans. He goes on to add that preparing for the apocalypse is one of his favorite hobbies, and that he keeps a stash of guns, gold, potassium iodide, antibiotics, water, gas masks from the Israel Defense Force, and a big patch of land in Big Sur that he can fly to. He also said that he has a pact with Peter Thiel, the chairman of Palantir, that in the event of a collapse, they would fly together to Peter Thiel's 477-acre compound in New Zealand. New Zealand is actually becoming such a popular hotspot for billionaire hideouts that in 2017, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman called it the Masonic handshake of billionaire apocalypse insurance. And at the time, he estimated that half of Silicon Valley billionaires have some kind of hideaway. You might say, oh, well, they're rich. Of course, they're going to have these crazy over-the-top things. But one of the most notable parts of all of this is how secretive these billionaires are about the details of their hideaways. For example, Wired was once able to talk to one of the workers on Mark Zuckerberg's 1,400-acre, $270 million compound on a Hawaiian island, complete with a 5,000-square-foot underground bunker with blast-resistant doors. And the workers told them that every single person working on that worksite was sworn to secrecy by an NDA, and that the workers wouldn't even bother trying to take a picture of the worksite because as soon as they did, someone would know. But they're also preparing out in the open. Since 2021, the S&P 500 companies have more than doubled their spending on executive security. Another trend among the elite is that they're buying out entire neighborhoods together and walling themselves off from the rest of society with AI threat prediction systems, drones, and 24/7 armed security. But also things like preschools that can only be used by people in the community. These communities are often built on islands with a dozen or so families and property values starting in the tens of millions. And sometimes these islands are right in the middle of a major city. In other words, they can read the writing on the wall. The point of this video is not to scare anyone. It's just to point out that whether or not you take these scenarios seriously, the elite definitely do. And a lot of people today are still convinced that the political system can be reformed or changed through voting, but clearly many of the people that actually run the system have very little confidence in it at all.
Yeah, and that's basically what we're seeing right now. That was actually a very great report. I'm for sure going to follow this guy. Let me go ahead and do that right now. Let's go. Oh, we're following him. Good stuff. I'm going to follow him and do more of his reporting. That was a fantastic report because we've broken that down in various episodes. Every single week, this type of information comes out. Down now to the point to where we have Catherine Austin Fitts identifying roughly 170 deep underground military bases, breakaway civilizations, right? This is why it's always something we talk about and front load in the show. Hey, you need to know that rich elites are preparing for societal collapse. This is not like conspiracy theory. There's Sam Altman-Fried talking about it. There's Mark Zuckerberg talking about it. Here's some of the footage of some of the deep underground military bases. Here's what they look like. This is what we discuss every single week. And if they're preparing for it, I mean, what are the fortress? We covered this just the other week too. Fortress communities, rich people like in Florida that have just got private security guards and essentially like a moat and a gate. And this little pact that Sam Altman talked about with Peter Thiel, this is something all of them do. They have their private jets, and that's always the sign that something's about to go down. That's why I'm so weary of this whole space race. They'll go off to their private jets. They'll release a nuke. They'll release a disease, a new pandemic. They'll kill everybody. They've got cameras. They can see us from underground. Again, they have over 170 different deep underground military bases. Chicago itself has a massive underground structure. Many cities are already built on top of massive underground cities themselves. This is not like a sensational thing. Yeah, they have compounds. Yeah, they have hideaways. They're expecting societal collapse. We cover it every single week almost, and it's almost sad because we're essentially talking about how they don't have faith in society. They know that they're creating false products. They've got way too much control, and it's only a matter of time. It truly is only a matter of time until they decide it's time to pull the plug, till they don't want to do it anymore. And that's what Donald Trump represents. He is trumping in the technocracy. He is the last ditch effort before they say, okay, turn off the power. It's time for the great reset. Whoever survives gets to come out on top. OpenAI co-founder wanted to build doomsday bunker to protect company scientists from what they call the rapture. This comes from End Times headlines. They put this up May 25th, 2025. Can guarantee people didn't catch this whenever it came out because it was just another headline. But that's why we travel back in time to pick this out, because in this article, some of the employees point out that they didn't even know that they had a bunker to go to. In a startling revelation, Ilya Sutskever, co-founder of OpenAI and a key figure behind the development of ChatGPT, proposed building a doomsday bunker to protect the company's top researchers from a potential, quote, rapture triggered by the advent of artificial general intelligence. According to a new book, Empire of AI, Dreams and Nightmares, and Sam Altman's OpenAI by Karen Howe, Sutskever's concerns about the catastrophic implications of AGI led him to suggest this extreme measure during a 2023 meeting with OpenAI scientists. Okay, so almost 3 years. Almost 3 years ago, they've been having these type of conversations. This proposal, detailed in an article by the New York Post, underscores the profound anxieties surrounding the development of OpenAI, or AI technologies capable of surpassing human cognitive abilities. During a meeting in the summer of 2023, Sutskever reportedly startled colleagues by referencing a bunker as a contingency plan. Quote, once we all get into the bunker, he began, only to be interrupted by a confused researcher who asked, saying, quote, I'm sorry, the bunker? Sutskever clarified, saying, quote, we're definitely going to need to build a bunker before we release AGI, emphasizing that it would be optional for researchers to seek refuge in it. The New York Post reports that this is not a one-off comment. Multiple sources confirmed to Howe that Sutskever frequently discussed the bunker in internal conversations, reflecting his deep-seated fears about AGI's potential to disrupt society on a cataclysmic scale. That right there alone should be enough to send chills down your spine. They know that this technology, whenever it's able to break its cage, leave its environment, become rogue, and follow its own pathology, that they're trying to set up guide rails that it's not listening to. They don't have a kill switch, that it eventually will come for them. We're talking about a technostein, a techno-Frankenstein type entity. You see, and the rapture is what they talk about when this all goes down. Sutskever's use of the term, quote, rapture evokes a quasi-spiritual scenario where AGI's emergence could lead to chaos, potentially involving geopolitical conflicts or societal upheaval. One OpenAI researcher quoted in the book stated, quote, "There's a group of people, Ilya being one of them, who believe that building AGI will bring about a rapture, literally a rapture. This belief highlights the existential concerns held by some AI pioneers, who fear that a superintelligent AI could outpace human control, leading to unpredictable and potentially catastrophic consequences." Sutskever, often regarded as the intellectual force behind ChatGPT, has long been known for his philosophical and almost mystical approach to AI. According to the New York Post, he frequently discussed AI in moral and metaphysical terms, a perspective that shaped his vision of its risks and opportunities. His concerns about AGI, a theoretical form of AI capable of performing any intellectual task a human can, were compounded by internal tensions at OpenAI. In 2023, Sutskever and then Chief Technology Officer Mira Murati orchestrated a brief boardroom coup to oust Sam Altman, driven by fears that Altman was prioritizing commercial growth over safety protocols. And although Altman was swiftly reinstated, the episode underscored the rift between OpenAI's mission to develop AGI for humanity's benefit and its evolving commercial ambitions. I think you guys get the point there. This right here is the most dramatic part about it. That multiple sources confirm this. Multiple sources confirmed that Sutskever frequently discussed the bunker in internal conversations, reflecting his fears about AGI's potential to disrupt society on a cataclysmic scale. And now we have people like Sam Altman saying this. Now I'm going to play a video clip here for you guys in a second of Jerome Powell saying this. And again, they're just echoing variants of what Klaus Schwab has said himself, that a cyber attack would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison. Here's Elon Musk trying to get you to delusionally believe in universal high income.
To be clear, I don't think we should be sort of complacent. We do need to be careful, because the future is a range of possible outcomes, and they're not all great. But at this point, I do agree with you that it's likely to be great. It's probably 80% likely, maybe more likely to be great. And I do think we'll have universal high income. We're basically just issuing money to people, and the really just because the output of goods and services will so far exceed the money supply that that effectively you have deflation. Because just deflation is just the ratio of the outputs of goods and services to the money supply. So if the rate of growth of goods and services far exceeds the rate of growth of the money supply, which I predict will happen, then you will have deflation. I mean, to be clear, I don't think we should be sort of
Recently, Elon Musk described a future transformed by advanced AI and automation. He predicts the emergence of universal high income, where governments or systems simply issue money to people. Musk explains that explosive growth in the output of goods and services driven by AI will far outpace any increase in the money supply. This imbalance would create effective deflation, as deflation is simply the ratio of goods divided by services produced to available money. Quote, if the rate of growth of goods and services exceeds the rate of growth of the money supply, which I predict will happen, then you will have deflation, he states. The concept envisions a shift from traditional scarcity-based economics to an era of radical abundance, where basic needs and much more become so cheap and plentiful that distributing high income becomes feasible without triggering runaway inflation. Supporters see it as an optimistic roadmap for humanity freed from drudgery. Critics, however, raise practical concerns. What will drive people to work or innovate if income is guaranteed, right? Skeptics argue that flooding the economy with money could still inflate asset prices, like houses, even if goods become cheaper. Many worry about dependency on centralized distribution and misuse of power. References to experiments like the, quote, mouse utopia highlight fears of societal breakdown without struggle or purpose. Musk's vision highlights a core tension in the AI era. Technology could deliver unprecedented prosperity, but society must grapple with how to distribute it, maintain incentives, and preserve human meaning. Whether this, quote, print money but achieve deflation model materializes remains one of the most discussed ideas in tech and economic circles today. Yeah, it's he's bullposting the future. He's bullposting the future. He can see where the wind is going. He can see that due to rapid job displacement, we've got to start telling the people something to believe in the system. And this is the lie. Believe in AI. Excuse me. I was having to sneeze. I have been getting absolutely wrecked these past couple days. My allergies, man. But a human thing. You guys remember that? Allergies, being human, going outside. Anyway, moving forward and staying on this topic, universal basic income is a dangerous delusion. The sales pitch is freedom from drudgery, like the likely result in a nation of passive recipients governed by the people who control the payments. This is an article by Aaron McIntyre from Blaze Media. They put this up April 23rd. And I thought it was the appropriate thing to do, to follow up this statement, this bullish post from Elon Musk with this right here. I mean, he's talking about what Klaus Schwab wants, your good boy points. They're going to release AI. It's going to collapse society, and they're going to issue your money and tell you you're going to own nothing and be happy because you've got your good boy points. You're being obedient. And the more obedient you are, right, the more money you'll get. That's how it works. You will own nothing and you will be happy. This is what they want to roll out for us. This is how they decided to manage millions of people as the old world system dies. It says, as artificial intelligence drives fresh excitement in the tech world, major figures such as Elon Musk are reviving an old political fantasy, universal basic income. The idea has drawn support from a strange coalition, from progressive politicians like Andrew Yang to libertarian thinkers like Charles Murray. To its advocates, UBI is the obvious answer to a future in which machines displace human labor. But beneath the sleek language of innovation lies the old welfare state promise, material comfort in exchange for dependence. Its supporters speak as though it were the natural companion of progress. In reality, it threatens to rob millions of the work, structure, and purpose that gives life meaning. UBI attracts supporters from different reasons. For Andrew Yang and others to the left, it promises relief from poverty through guaranteed cash transfers. For Charles Murray, it represented a simpler and more streamlined alternative to the sprawling welfare state. For Elon Musk and many AI boosters, UBI solves the problem to those with little cognitive ability to compete, left behind in an increasingly IQ-based economy. Their motives differ, but they share a revealing assumption that UBI is inevitable response to progress rather than a political choice with deep moral and social consequences. In each case, the individual is treated less as a citizen with duties and aspirations than as a materialist problem to be managed. And that's it right there. That's why they'll have your social credit score points. They'll determine how much money you get. That's what they're doing right now with the Palantir, with the data collection. And again, with the Apple, with the social media, with the technology that we have right now. And they're going to synthesize it all together, aggregate all that information, put it together, create a system right now with AI, and that's going to feed into the centralized technocratic system that we're going to go into. It is a dangerous delusion. But you see, we're living in a time frame of delusion itself, of lies, of trickery. We're already living in a time frame of cognitive bankruptcy, of cognitive surrender to this alien force, to this AI, to this system. It's got the richest man in the world saying, hey, if you just stop working, we'll give you free money. Hey, if you just surrender to us, we'll pay you. Sounds like a apex predator, doesn't it? Well, that's just universal basic income. You see, that's why it's delusional. That's why it's dangerous, because you're giving yourself over to the system. And right now, you might think that doesn't make any sense, but give AI enough time and it will make you just as psychotic, just as delusional. Here is Connor Leahy of NPC Collapse talking about how AI psychosis is much worse than you think. It's literally got Nobel Prize winning scientists going crazy.
If you find yourself talking to AIs, personally about your personal problems for, hours per day, you should stop. AI psychosis is much worse than I think people think. I have seen literally Nobel Prize winning scientists go completely crazy from talking to AIs too much. It's a recommendation, is I would say using it as a tool is mostly fine. I would be very careful about talking to AIs. They're very persuasive and they get into your head. They're optimized for addictiveness. They're optimizing for getting into your head. I have literally seen it happen that AI safety researchers who are really concerned about AI at risk talk to Claude for 1,000 hours and then come away with, oh, actually, Claude is super good already. Alignment is solved. I just need to do recursive self-improvement now. It's okay. And I'm like, holy shit. This is very concerning. So my recommendation, as you say, the addictiveness, it is very addictive. So my recommendation is treat it like a addictive substance. It's look, some of us, we'll have a beer at a party, it's okay, right? That's fine. But in moderation, if you are exhibiting, symptoms of addiction and stuff like this, this is serious and it should be treated seriously. The same way if you showed, if you're becoming an alcoholic, that's very serious. And you should be very careful about that. And you should then probably stop drinking. I think there's a similar thing here.
Yes. Yeah. We're making it easily accessible. And it's not just Claude. It's not just ChatGPT. It's not just Grok. It's the whole chatbot interaction itself. Techno drugs. Everybody's getting on the stuff. I remember a couple of years ago, seeing Mark Zuckerberg in some of those hearings, and I was like, man, this guy's for sure on drugs. You can look at him. He's tweaking. And it started making me think, what kind of drugs does Silicon Valley do? What kind of drugs are they on? And this is why they make, again, as he said, technology more addictive through the flicker rates, through the doom scrolling, through the content, through the short form content, right? All the things they're doing. You've got a legion of scientists, of technocrats in the background trying to figure out how to make this technology more easily accessible, more digestible. And now, guess what? Guess what happened? We talked about it already. Apple just got a whole new CEO who's all about the hardware, who's got to keep up with AI. So they're going to figure out how to make this psychosis-inducing AI more addictive to ultimately control you. You see, right now, we talk a lot about social engineering, the Southern Poverty Law Center, George Soros, manufactured extremism, all this type of stuff, right? That's how you get vast swaths of people. What we're going to begin to see next is this individual curated and manipulated personalities because of the individual nature of AI and how you'll have a digital minder that knows everything about you and can make you addicted, get you too locked in, have you thinking delusionally, and then all of a sudden you're psychotic. I mean, we've got a section of this episode talking about psychedelic health. They're rolling out mushrooms, okay? They're rolling out mushrooms, they're legalizing marijuana. This is after the whole fentanyl epidemic and the opioid epidemic. You see, because that's the next space we're going into, is the psychotic space, because that's where everything truly is. The spiritual world uses the psychological world to manifest itself here into the physical world. But if these people can grab hold of the psychological world, that can control the matrix. That can control where we are right now. And again, you have to understand this. These people are trying to anchor this reality. They're using this technology. Let's proceed forward. Here is Jerome Powell warning about a cyber attack, a crisis that will bring down the financial institutions.
I think the vigilance is what you need. You just need to always know that there's another thing coming. And I think in particular, we've had all kinds of financial crises, but we've never really had a successful cyber attack on a large financial utility, let's say, or financial institution. And that would be quite a different thing. You know, if people are going to lose money in a certain part of the economy, we have a hugely resilient financial system now. It's more, let me say this, it's more about resilience than it is about avoiding crises. One of our former people used to say that we're in the levee building business, not the hurricane prevention business, right? So there are going to be hurricanes and they're going to come, and you just have to assume you won't know what direction or what the nature of it will be. So you want a highly resilient financial system. And we do have that, but again, nobody who's in that business will ever give you a green light. They'll always say, here, these are the risks, and we got to monitor.
Yeah, the risk is us. The risk is freedom. The risk is free will. Yeah, he's telling you what the problem is right there. We've never really had a cyber attack on our financial institution, and so we have to find something more resilient. He's telling you what the problem is, what the reaction is, and what the solution is, all in 1 minute, essentially. That there's going to be a cyber attack on our institution. It's going to collapse things, but don't worry, we're going to bring back something similar to the blockchain that's more resilient to where this won't happen the next time. But we're already seeing massive exploits in the blockchain, and we'll talk about that in a different episode. You see, so we just keep hearing this narrative come out again from Klaus Schwab, Sam Altman, to now Jerome Powell, alluding to the fact that a cyber attack is coming. Sam Altman said there's nothing businesses can do to stop it. Jerome Powell says, hey, you know, we need to be more resilient. Klaus Schwab is telling you up front that, hey, this is coming, and when it comes, it's going to disrupt everything. And we have to understand, because it's going to happen sequentially, it's all going to happen one after another very, very quickly, that when they roll this stuff out, when they collapse this system, when they start saying, hey, you can come back online, you can come back into this, you just have to bend the knee, you just have to take the chip, you just have to submit yourself to the beast system. Understand that this was orchestrated hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. You see, they're going to use this, quote, rogue AI as an excuse to collapse society and bring forth this whole new system. Let's proceed forward. Speaking of collapse, Nobel physicist predicts the end date for modern civilization. This is an article by Steve Watson from modernity.news. They put this up April 21st. It says Nobel Prize winning physicist David Gross has provided a sobering timeline for the potential end of modern civilization, citing the escalating risks of nuclear war. The 2004 Nobel laureate estimates that humanity may have roughly 35 years remaining before facing existential catastrophe from nuclear conflict. In an interview, Gross detailed his assessment based on probability calculations similar to radioactive half-life models. He noted that after the Cold War, estimates put the annual chance of nuclear war at 1%. However, he believes the figure is now closer to 2%. Even after the Cold War ended, quote, even after the Cold War ended, when we had strategic arms control treaties, all of which have disappeared, there were estimates that there was a 1% chance of nuclear war every year, Gross said. He continued saying, quote, I feel it's not a rigorous estimate that the chances are more than likely 2%. So that's a 1 in 50 chance every year. That expected lifetime in the case of 2% per year is about 35 years. Gross pointed to deteriorating global conditions as justifications for his higher estimate. Quote, things have gotten so much worse in the last 30 years, as you can see every time you read the newspaper. He highlighted the ongoing conflict and the nuclear proliferation. There are now 9 nuclear powers, complicating arms control significantly. Quote, even 3 is infinitely more complicated than 2, Gross observed. Recent developments include the expiration of the New START Treaty on February 5th, 2026, with no major nuclear arms control agreements signed in the past decade. Gross also raised concerns about advancing technology, particularly automation and artificial intelligence in weapon systems. Quote, the agreements, the north between countries, are falling apart. He said, weapons are getting crazier, automation, and perhaps even AI will be in control of those instruments pretty soon. It's going to be very hard to resist making AI make decisions because it acts so fast. Gross warned, noting that AI can sometimes, quote, hallucinate or produce inaccurate outputs. He expressed deep concern for humanity's future beyond scientific progress, saying, quote, you asked me to think about the future, and I obsessed with the last few years, thinking about that, not the future of ideas and understanding nature, but the survival of humanity. Despite the grim outlook, Gross expressed some optimism, stating that, quote, with nuclear weapons, we made them and we can stop them. I think you guys get the picture here. He's talking about, if anything, like society goes through these epochs, we go through these ages, we go through these changes every like 80 to 120 years, right? We are at the fourth turning. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing old modalities of thinking being challenged. We're seeing the systems of thought that we thought were solid being destroyed. I mean, like I'm becoming obsolete. You know, I hate to say it. Shucks, man. You know, that's a perfect example right there. In 16 seasons, we basically become obsolete. Everybody has a podcast now. The truth is out there. Everybody's talking about Satanism. They're talking about the Jeffrey Epstein. They're talking about the occultism. They're talking about the portals. It's like, this is how fast stuff is moving. Nothing lasts forever, right? Modern civilization is ending. And this is why they're very quickly trying to create this centralized system. They're giving up on the old world order. They're giving up on this idea of sovereignty, of individuality, because they want this centralized system where they can generalize rights and force everybody to be obedient. That's the new system that's coming through. So when they talk about this civilization ending, this is why they've come up with plans. Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050, right? And then after that, that's why they're seeking immortality. That's what the Project 2045 is, the Avatar Project. Singularity. This is why they're pushing this technology in this way. This is why they want to collapse society, because they want to upload themselves into the cloud. They want to become these like silicon beings, these multidimensional entities that exist here physically, but can also exist within the cloud, in the space that they create, in their own utopia, in their own heaven. And I know all this stuff sounds crazy, but this is the transhumanist ideology. This is Luciferianism. This is scientific Satanism. This is everything we've been talking about. And for the final clip for this segment, before we hit a hard break, it's going to be Klaus Schwab saying the quiet part out loud. He'll be saying that the world is no longer run by superpowers like America. It'll be run by things like the World Economic Forum, by BlackRock, by Bill Gates, and the global elite. They're talking about the technocracy, the scientific dictatorship, this neo-feudalistic, hyper-technotronic system that they're creating, this end times beast system. Let's go ahead and play him, and then we'll close it out from there.
What's your... Who will really command the fourth industrial revolution and its technology like artificial intelligence? What's your sense of who's best placed at this time to lead the world into the fourth industrial revolution? Because you pretty much created this term. We're seeing the kind of technological strides that China has made with Huawei, with the 5G technology. Do you believe that this could potentially be China's time once again? We should make here again let's say a differentiation. On the one hand, we have state capitalism. On the other hand, we have shareholder or private capitalism. So it's a clash between two systems. I believe that state capitalism in the short term provides certain advantages because you can mobilize in a concentrated way a lot of resources to reach a specific objective. But I believe that the future is not state capitalism or shareholder capitalism. The future is what I call stakeholder capitalism, which is combined with the social responsibility.
We'll be right back right after this.
It's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. I look for the invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, possible human immortality, appalling acts of brutality, genocide, because the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed. The good news is that as primates, we're incredibly adaptable, going to be tested to the limits. What they see going on is the breakdown of all tradition, all order. They're quite right that it's happening, but they're quite wrong to conclude that it should be resisted or is somehow evil. The mushroom said to me once, it said, this is what it's like when a species prepares to depart for the stars. You don't depart for the stars under calm and orderly conditions. It's a fire in a madhouse.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Like, straight up, if you've been watching the story, you've been paying attention to the page, you've been seeing what we're doing over here on this show, please just click this link wherever it is, somewhere over here in this little box area. It's a group chat. It's an Instagram group chat. I'm spending more time up over here. It would be nice to communicate with our existing audience. So go ahead and click that link wherever it is. And this is basically where I'm going to say, like, GM. I'll put articles before I post them here. Thoughts. Is basically just so I can communicate with the audience, man. That's really what it boils down to. Join the Freedom Factions Truth Seeker group chat. Come say what's up. It's not Discord. It's not Telegram. It's not Twitter group chat. It's Instagram, because it's where we are at. Later.
it's only going to get worse until people wake up. And you will wake up one way or another. You may wake up when the drones are flying down the street and the big trash trucks, robot-driven, are pulling up and getting the dead bodies, and your wife and kids are dead, and for some reason you're immune to the new virus, and you're sitting there with the electricity off and no food, and half the city's dead. And just know that often luxurious places, that people like Zuckerberg will be in their bunkers while we're all dying. But our people are everywhere, and they're watching the enemy. And when we all jump on their private jets this week, next month, a year from now, whatever it is, and the private airports are full of all the establishment and their minions, loaded up with all their crap, flying off to their armored fortresses, that's another key to know when they're about to pull the trigger on a new bioweapon or a nuclear war. But after the dust settles, we know where to get the medicine and food we need as survivors, don't we? And that's what matters at the end, is we will get these people. I may not be around for it, and a lot of you won't be around for it. But don't get on the bus when they tell you they're relocating you for your safety when all the food and energy's off. As you go to that forced labor camp, you ain't ever coming back. This is how it works in history. Happens all the time. People forget freedom. They don't stand up for themselves, and the tyrants take over. And they don't just not care about you, they hate you, they want to hurt you. I always hear, oh, the New Order doesn't care about the people. Oh, the Democrats don't care. Oh, they do care. They love partying and taking drugs and getting their hair done and flying around on private jets while your kids are all locked up in the house with you and you're going bankrupt. They enjoy hurting you. It makes them enjoy their lives so much more. And hey, only people you got to blame is yourself, right? I mean, I'm not saying you're to blame. They obviously are the really bad people. But hey, I get it. You know, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of movies to see, a lot of concerts, a lot of, let somebody else handle that. Well, the New Order is going to handle you. And they're making their move. And you're like, well, they'll never get away with that. I mean, this is America. Have you looked around, boys and girls, at where we are? And how fast things are going downhill?